Roll call of directors, please, Sarah.
Hermaning,
Yes?
Gorman,
Here.
Hanson,
Here.
Bauman,
Here.
Stankowski,
Here.
Zebro,
Here.
Barnes,
Present.
Kaiser,
Here.
Maple. Yes, we have all present.
Thank you. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And number 4 is approval of the agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda. I'll second.
We have a motion by Zebro, a second by Kaiser to approve the agenda. Any changes, updates, or corrections? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, discussion, special presentation. 5A, discussion elementary school staff presentation.
Yep,
behind
Christie
you.
will take care of that.
Do we need the podium, David?
Oh,
Thank you.
need the
Yes.
podium?
No, just the
No
presentation.
podium?
Yep,
We don't need the podium, I don't.
Okay.
Christie has it.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Well, maybe. Okay. I guess I didn't realize I'd have to stand here holding.
Oh my God.
Oh, you want a church man?
Oh, goodness.
Oh, man.
I had my Wheaties this morning.
Thanks, Rob.
Left, right. Rob didn't know that was in his son.
Thank you, Rob.
Add that to the list. Calling you tomorrow.
All right. So for our elementary school, we really wanted to focus on sharing about building a strong and positive community, which has been a major focus as I'm new to Moseley Elementary School. We have Steph Treba here, Dean of Students, both of us new this year, Amanda Lang teaching 3rd grade, and Chris Olson here, our technology teacher. And so we want to highlight some of the things that we've been working on. Our district initiatives that we are focusing on as a whole this year are kind of our big 4, our co-planning, UDL, standards, and then student and staff wellness. So we want to make sure that we're kind of coming back to those 4 big areas. And there's definitely work happening in all of those 4 circles. But today we really want to take a closer look on the student and staff wellness piece. Because we feel like if this isn't there, the other parts really can't happen. And so we've been focusing a lot on how do we build that positive, welcoming community so that students and staff want to be at our school every day. And so the 4 areas that we want to highlight today are around PBIS, positive communication, climate and culture, and then our value and feedback and data. So those are the areas we will focus on. And so we're going to start off by talking about PBIS.
So PBIS is our positive behavior intervention supports. We always use be safe, be responsible, be respectful. So that's kind of the basis of those things for all classrooms, for all students, and for staff. We have monthly assemblies. We have school-wide rewards for our students, positive behavior recognition, and staff and student leadership in the form of being part of those assemblies and activities. And we're moving forward with those things in future years too. First we have our school song, which Mrs. Tice wrote, and we sing it at our, make sure it goes. All right, and we sing it at our school assemblies. Let's see if it'll work for us. So it's really cute, and they're learning it. And we have little posters also hung in our classrooms so they can remember the words. As far as teaching PBIS expectations, we do that at our monthly assembly. So we review the expectations that we have on our matrices that are in our classrooms, and then we want to involve both staff and students in those activities. So, in these pictures, you can see some of our assemblies. So the bus company came and joined us. Our great bus drivers joined us, and we reviewed some great bus behavior and what it looks like and what it doesn't look like. We like to make it fun, so we made it a little silly, like, acting out what we wouldn't do on the bus, of course, and then pointing out those expected behaviors. And then, of course, on the far side there, you can see proper dress in the winter time. So Mrs. Knapp there is demonstrating. She's really excited to be going out and playing in the snow. So that is some fun things that we do at our assemblies. And we've also had, so in the beginning of the school year, we had popsicles outside as their reward. So they earn their compliment critters, and when that gets full, they get their reward. We had Halloween bingo, which was really nice because we combined with some other grade levels, and we're able to play Halloween bingo and earn prizes. And then we most recently did turkey bowling, which was fun and exciting, a learning experience for all, where they bowled their turkeys, and each student got a couple of tries at rolling, throwing, tossing their turkey at the pins. So it's all been really fun to promote positive behaviors and them knowing that they're going to get a reward from that.
Perfect. So as part of that, we have the Top Banana. Every teacher in our building during 1 month will get to nominate a student for something that they have done good throughout that month. We really focus in on being safe, being responsible, and being respectful, and that's kind of our aim. So if they get the Top Banana, they receive a certificate, a pencil, and a magnet that they can take home to share with their parents. So, and then they get recognized on the Facebook page and all that other good stuff. They're also recognized in front of the entire school, and we try to talk about why they are receiving that award so that the other kids have an opportunity and kind of take it all in and what they could do. As far as our golden tickets, so we give out golden tickets against once a month. Teachers and staff can give one out to students. This is really a neat way for our kids to just earn some recognition. Their names then get called on our announcements that go out to parents via Facebook, and then so they can show their parents that their name was called. And then with all of these, we give phone calls home. So for every golden ticket, which comes to be about 75 a month, we make a phone call to a parent and tell them why their kid got that. So as a parent, I know that that's exciting, and it's honestly for me, I feel like sometimes I spend time making those not so good phone calls. So this is really a way to kind of bring back why we're really here. So just different ways that our kids can be recognized, and we can show others what it takes to achieve and meet expectations. Oh goodness. Okay, so staff and student leadership. So we do have our PBIS committee. So we have monthly meetings where we're developing different things. We're doing our assemblies, our school-wide rewards, student recognition. We're looking at the data and really deciding what areas are our kids still struggling in and what do we need to address as a staff. And then looking to see, is that a systemic issue, or is that something we can handle and move forward with, or is it something even bigger than that? So it really gives us a focus on our student behavior at different times throughout the year. Then we have our PBIS leader. So this is something kind of new this year. So as a staff, our PBIS committee, we decided that we needed kind of an icon that our kids could look up to. And so as part of what we talked about, student choice and working with our families, we voted as a school, and the Bobcat was our winning leader. And so the goal there is that we want to name our Bobcat, and then the Bobcat will carry out our matrices that are set throughout the building, and it just kind of gives our kids something to look forward to. Our other goal then would be kind of to move into the fact that all of our PBIS things, like our Top Banana Reward, our golden tickets, will then reflect this new icon. So our leader, we hope it'll give the kids just something exciting and new to kind of bring to the table and to add into our assemblies. And then our classroom matrices, our students and teachers work together to have matrices in their classrooms, but they're also throughout different areas in the building. So there's one in the cafeteria, how to behave in the restroom, how to behave outside. And those are the things that we're constantly going back to as we see different behaviors or things pop up throughout the year. I'll save that for later. All right, is this still me?
That's
Chris.
So we are very lucky at the elementary school to have our video morning announcements as a platform to not only share what's going on in our school, but give recognition to our students. And so we use lots of different things. We have the compliment critters that we do. We have the golden tickets, and then anything positive that's going on in the classrooms. We also use it as a way for Mrs. Schmidt and Mrs. Treba to review things. The kids get to see them, not just hear about them. They get to actually see them on the announcements as they're discussing how do you behave on the playground, how do you behave in the cafeteria, things like that. So, and then this goes out on Facebook, so not only can parents see these things, but then it's also available to community members, so they can see what's going on and feel like they're part of what we do and what they know what's going on at our school. So I just have a little preview back there. All right, so here's just a little snippet, and you might not recognize somebody.
Elementary School. I'm Joel. Today is
My son.
Monday, November 14th, 2022. It is day 1. Please stand while we say the Pledge of Allegiance. Our character trait for the month of November is citizenship. Here is an example of how I am a good citizen. I pick up trash even if it is not mine.
Hello, Mosney Elementary. It's that time again, golden ticket. So, here we go. Camden F. from 2nd grade for being a good citizen by pushing in chairs and picking others' things up. Way to go. Anna E. from 3rd grade for problem solving. Rain T. From 1st grade. Rain always follows directions. She is kind to others and is always willing to help. Way to be a good friend.
Thanks for watching the morning announcements. Have a super day.
So that's just a little snippet of what we do. Let's go back. Oops. There we go. And then...
Good morning,
maybe
Mosney
not.
Elementary School.
There we go. All right. And then we also have our Facebook page at the Moseley Elementary School. We've been using that quite a bit this year to put out what's going on, to give information. And so there's a lot of Facebook posts that go out there. This is one about 2 of our kindergarten classes that had a kindness day, and they made blankets for the Children's Hospital and put together many gifts. They created cards that then were also given out to our staff, which increases that sense of appreciation from our staff members. And then also teachers are constantly putting out seesaw posts, which is one of our platforms we use to celebrate the great things with family members. All right.
Thank you. Let's see. Oh, that's you. Yep.
Okay, so positive monthly communication, this is kind of new this year, so we've been trying to get our parents a little bit more involved in what PBIS looks like and how they could bring that into the home as well. So one of the things is a quarterly update that we're doing, so we've gotten 2 of these out so far. Oh, it's touchy tonight, hold on. So just a glimpse, so these would go home to parents, and it kind of just talks through some of the things we're doing at school, as well as some things they could do at home to review some of the same things that we're trying to remind the kiddos at school. So a lot of times gives announcements, so like our school-wide reward that was coming up, talking about our PBIS leader, our school assemblies, and then on the back is usually more information. Creating calming spaces or different areas at our school has kind of been a thing we've been working on, regulation spaces to help our kids through some tough problems that they're having or times regulating when they're in the classroom. And so just helping parents to identify what that looks like and what they could do at home, and just giving them more information. I think the more we can give out to our parents, and they can see what we're doing, it can carry over, and that consistency is key. So just something new we have started and are trying this year. Has been pretty well received, I feel like. But it also gave, like when we were voting on our leader, it gave our parents were able to sit down and talk with their kids about the name for the leader. And so we've had lots of names coming in so that we can name them as a whole group, but that's something that then can carry over into the home and they can do together as a family. So, all right, so climate and culture, this is a group that is, we have teachers come together and just really work on what can we do to make our climate and culture in our building the best that it can possibly be. So we really take a focus on the students, but also on our staff. We know that education is tough right now, and we want to keep our staff moving and just feeling appreciated in our building, because a lot goes into what we do every single day. So this group comes together once a month, talks about things we can do for kids, kind of overlaps with some of the PBIS things that we're doing, but also goes above and beyond. So we have things like dress up days or different activities that we can do to make our students feel like they're part of our family. And same with the staff. We took a group picture today, and it was amazing. Almost everyone in there was wearing red, and it was Red Day. It was great. So, just really, it's those little things that count that just make us all feel like a happy family. So, we're working hard there. Another thing is we're really grateful for the opportunity to bring our families back into the building. They're everywhere, and it's great. For the community to be coming in and seeing the good things that are happening. I see Megan weekly, and it's just nice because then it gives us the opportunity to get to know our parents at a different level. And when those tough conversations comes up, it makes it a lot easier. So lots of classrooms have been inviting families back in for different activities. We had Grandparents' Day. A lot of Thanksgiving feast went on this year. Just recently, they did some gingerbread house making. And like I said, we have lots of volunteers coming in on a regular basis, and truly, without them, we couldn't do the hustle and bustle of every day, and so we're very grateful that they're back and with us.
So one of the other pieces of creating a positive school community was to try to create a sense of belonging. So in the beginning of the year, we kind of inherited this jungle theme and we embraced it. So the teachers went all out. Our building really looked like a jungle, and it was really fun. The kids loved it. And we built upon that, what we call our Wild Wednesdays. And so we, the little picture on the left-hand side there of the bracelets, we got bracelets for all the kids. So they can wear those on Wednesdays, and they're part of our kind of jungle, school jungle. And they're encouraged to wear anything an animal on their shirt or animal print or something like that for those Wild Wednesdays. So just another way to feel like they belong and we're all part of that school family. Again, with climate and culture, like Mrs. Treva had mentioned, we really are trying to do what we can to recognize the great staff within our building. So staying in tune to just celebrating our staff, for the things that they do for our kids each day. Involving staff within our assemblies. We do fun, goofy things, but the kids love it, and the staff, I think, are having fun with it as well. So lots of those positives happening. And that takes us into kind of the last aspect, value and feedback and data. So we really have been doing everything that we can to take in as much feedback as we can. And so we have that Satchel Pulse survey that's going out monthly where we're learning like where are things going well, what can we work on. And we're meeting with our building leadership teams monthly, talking about those lower pillars that we need to work on and action steps around that. And then pulling our instructional coaches into that, like Steph had mentioned, the Culture and Climate Committee, and that all kind of feeds into our Leader in Me, which is that big SEL piece district-wide. We've started professional development with that as staff, and we're going to continue that. We have another training session in January. We'll be learning more about the 7 habits in the Leader in Me program. So all that kind of goes together, but we're really, whether it's informal conversations and check-ins with staff to more formal surveys, taking all of that information and really trying to work together with our teams to put some action steps into how can we make it the best place. So that is it. Any questions?
No,
All right. Thank you.
I have
Thank
a
you.
comment.
Yes.
It is a very good presentation. I wish I was back in elementary.
We're having fun. Come on in. Yes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And as always, special presentation guests are certainly welcome to leave if you have other commitments. Alrighty? Or stay, it's entirely up to you. Item 5B, discussion PTO donation. Merry Christmas.
You're stuck with me. So I'm Amanda Lang, and I'm gonna make Mrs. Birdhouse come up here too. She joins us at the PTO. I'm Amanda Lang. I'm a 3rd grade teacher and also a parent of a 6th grader. I am the secretary of the PTO and the co-chair. Mostly not because I enjoy like multiple roles, but we're a little short on people. So as you can see, but we are fortunate for great support of the students and their families for PTO, and we had an excellent fundraiser, which we were really fortunate for, and really thankful for the families that they're willing to sell and promote positive things for the PTO. So we'd like to present the Moseley School District with a check for $18,000 this year.
Thank you.
I think we're gonna have a little picture there, so.
But he hasn't turned big checks.
You gotta stay up there. You're the picture people. Thank you.
Yes.
You weren't.
Thank you.
Not tonight, but Pat might have that on his.
I did my thing today, but what happened to her?
I know, right?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 7 is public forum. There was nobody who signed. Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead. Item 6. 6A is approval of the minutes from November 15th, 2022 regular board meeting.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Motion by Gorman, second by Zebro. Any corrections? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, there was nobody, as I understand it, who signed up for public forum tonight. Thank you.
Can I ask, do we work through the technology issues? And-
Yeah.
Yep. Terry helped me test it last month, so we're all set to go. I double checked it today and we didn't see any responses.
Item number 8 is consent agendas. I seek a motion.
I will make that motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion by Gorman, second by Kaiser to approve the consent agendas. Is there anything that any committee desires to come out of the consent agenda? Matt Barnes for curriculum. Anybody else? Okay, we'll pull that. Matt, what's your topic?
Sure. It's our agenda item 6C and 6D. Both are in regards to middle school English language arts curriculum.
Okay. We'll pull that out and we'll discuss that right after the vote here.
Very good.
Anything else? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Barnes.
It seemed appropriate. This is a topic that I think many people in the community are concerned about. I know my phone rang, my guess is other people's phone rang. So for the purpose of the community that might be watching, as well as the rest of the board, it seemed appropriate to pull it, just to give a summary of the issue and the solution moving forward. So we started with a little history, which is the English language arts curriculum used in our school, primarily in the elementary school and in the middle school, is Lucy Calkins. It's also through Heinemann Publishing. That was purchased long before any of our current administrators were in their positions. It's something that was given to our teachers to use. And this year, well, first off, I think on behalf of the administrators and the board, we want to apologize to the community that this happened. But there were segments of that curriculum that were available to students who did see imagery that is not appropriate in the school. It involved nudity. It was totally inappropriate. And our district is working with that publishing company to identify how that could happen. In the short term, Mr. Munoz and the administrative staff made an emergency decision to not utilize that curriculum unless it was vetted by teachers and staff, any issues being brought to the building administrator. Our current board policy does not give the authority to our administrators to cancel curriculum. Okay, so that is a decision for this board, which is item 6C on our agenda. And we can't just make curriculum go away. But 6C is specific to the middle school, which is where the issues have been observed. The elementary school uses other curriculum as well as Lucy Calkins. They have not had significant issues. So what we're talking about here is for grades 6 through 8 or anything in the middle school is the way I would phrase this. And what we are doing with this vote is authorizing our staff to not use portions of the curriculum and direct them that the portions of the curriculum that are being used need to be vetted by staff and by administration in order to ensure that it's safe and appropriate curriculum for our students. So that is what item 6C is. Our committee voted unanimously to support item 6C in our agenda. Item 6D is really where do we go from here? We have significant concerns about the appropriateness of the current curriculum that we have, hence item 6C, and concerns about whether that curriculum is consistent with the values of the Mosinee community in our school. So what we approved unanimously is we will receive a report next month that should give us a plan on what is the makeup of a committee to vet new curriculum, new ELA curriculum for our school. We don't know what that's going to look like. We have no idea what that cost is going to be, but we felt it appropriate for the school really to vet what is in the best interest of our kids moving forward. Next month we should receive, here's the plan on how we're going to vet that, and then we will work on timelines to potentially be bringing forward to this board for the next school year a different curriculum. And that's my summary moving forward. And if I missed anything, Kevin, feel free.
It's more clarity than anything else, just for this. You mentioned as you were going through it that there were no significant issues found at the elementary school. I think the correctness, I believe, would be there were no issues found.
That's very accurate. And so,
Okay.
After we discussed this, I mean, Jolene and I, the issue was like, does this apply to the elementary school? And our request is that we pay attention to that curriculum, but we also need to appreciate that there are other curriculums that the elementary school uses on a very high level. It is
Fontes and Pinnell, called F&P, Fontes and Pinnell.
And so, like, those concerns that we have with the middle school curriculum do not currently exist with the elementary school curriculum.
Correct.
Although, we're gonna keep an eye on it. Appreciate it. Go ahead.
And that F&P that Rob is talking about is also used in grades 4 and 5. So I don't want the board to get the impression that there's nothing there. We have materials that have been, along with the unit studies in Lucy Calkins. So kind of in your brain think of where we're seeing the issues came from the Lucy Calkins units of study. We also have F&P, which is used, so they're two separate things, okay?
Yes.
And then I would also add that I have heard from members of our community, and I want to speak for Kevin because he identified that he had as well, our appreciation to the administration for, number one, for the parents that brought this forward and addressed this concern, and two, for the administration that took immediate action to make sure that this type of material wasn't available to our children in the school moving forward. And I think this is a good plan to keep the board informed, keep the board involved, and us have a plan of action moving forward to address the ELA curriculum.
And are you putting that forth in the form of a motion for the board?
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Barnes, second by Kaiser, to, in accordance with board policy, to support the decision of the administration to suspend the use of the Lucy Calkins curriculum, and also to, one motion is fine, right?
I think so.
To also constitute a committee, working through Mr. Way, to review the curriculum for the grades 6, 8, or 6, 7? 6, 8. Thank you.
So
6,
one
8.
minor adjustment.
For ELA, yes.
To vet and suspend any and all inappropriate curriculum associated with ELA in the school.
Yes.
Because they're still gonna be using portions of it that exist,
Yes,
but.
understood.
Concerns.
That's a good point of clarity. We're still going to be using the Lucy Calkins curriculum, but we're just going to be.
Not using English on charts.
Right.
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 Any other questions?
Yes, I have a couple of questions or comments. Number one, not only thank you for pointing out to thank the parents that came forward, but also the student, because the student, just like if you see something, say something. So they went home, did the right thing, and talked to their parents and to the teacher, from my understanding. So that was very commendable to the student as well. But additionally, so I have done some further research on Lucy Calkins as well. So what I would like clarity on is Lucy Calkins also implemented in our high school at all? Because it does say in many of the articles online that some of the concerning curricula is from 6 through 9.
No,
So is that
it's
being
not.
implemented in the high school? So just a point of clarification.
No, it's
No.
a K-8. In our district, it's K-8.
Okay.
Is that correct, Mr. Way?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's what I understood.
Not at the high school, not at ninth grade.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 9, discussion and possible decision, approval of the monthly voucher list. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the monthly voucher list.
I'll second.
Motion by Zebro, second by Bauman. Questions? Roll call, please.
Hanson,
Yes.
Hermany,
Yes?
Gorman,
Yes.
Bauman,
Yes.
Stankowski. Yes. Zebro,
Yes.
Barnes,
Yes.
Kaiser,
Yes.
Rico.
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you. Item number 10, discussion and possible decision, acceptance of the monthly treasurer's report.
I'll make that motion to accept the monthly treasurer's report.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Hanson, second by Zebro, to accept the monthly treasurer's report. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Maple? Yes. Barnes?
Yes.
Stankowski? Yes. Kaiser?
Yes.
Zebro?
Yes.
Gorman?
Yes.
Bauman?
Yes.
Hermany?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
All yes.
Thank you. Item 11, superintendent update.
There's 3 items, and then I'll add 2 in verbally. The first item, thank you to the city council, Mayor Jacobson, for the approval of 2 additional school resource officers that will be going. It's something that I wrote in the Mosinee link. This has been approved in their final budget. So this is an item that'll be rolling out starting October 1st with a 2nd officer, and then in early of 2024, a 3rd officer. So we're excited about this. Extremely enhances the level of school safety, and just this isn't something that can happen immediately because of training, transitions, and hiring cycles, materials. So we're excited about this. This is respectfully what we had requested, and we're very happy to be in this great working relationship with the city. So I'll report on that more as things start to develop, including materials and positions and how that's going to be rolling out on October 1st. The state report card is number 2. The district exceeded expectations. Mr. Wade did a wonderful report. It's linked in the bottom there about us exceeding expectations. There's several different levels. That's the second highest level. We still have a good amount of work to do, which is laid out in Rob's very good report in terms of, but that's what our work is. And each individual school has their improvement plans, and they're dialed into gaps and analyses. And there's a pretty good overview in the link provided. But thank you to the staff, for our teachers, our families, and the students. We do believe this is an excellent district, but we're always striving to do more, to do better, to improve in terms of, in all aspects of things. But we wanted to make sure that we reported that out. In terms of Christmas concerts, I attended most of them, not all of them. I was there last night for the band concert, which was excellent, where they did also recognize those band members going to the Rose Bowl parade. So for those that is something, I know they had an assembly today for the Rose Bowl parade, the students and staff that are going, which are multiple, so it's an exciting opportunity for our kids. It's not just the Mosinee band, it's a larger Northwoods band, so there's multiple school districts involved, and there's been a great deal of travel involved with, students would go from here all the way to Northland Pines. For example, I know in their last practice, they travel from here to Northland Pines. It's not just the travel, but then it's the practice time with all these other groups. So it's a pretty amazing thing. So they'll be marching in the Rose Bowl on the 2nd of January, so we'll actually be back in session. But we'll make sure that it's available for anybody to watch anywhere in the district. So it's really a great thing for the students and the staff. So it's a thing to remember. Last couple of things. The weather has been a little bit of an issue, but we've been working on it. I know we have had to call 2 days, and we have some weather patterns moving in as well. So just rest assured that it's something that I stay on top of. And it's not just me, it's multiple people, a lot of road checks and this sort of thing in the mornings. Pretty early, yeah. Some of the most fun that I had on one of the days, the first day that I called, I went to get coffee at 3:15 or thereabouts in the morning over at the Quick Trip. Of course, we have a lot of parents at the Quick Trip, and they wanted to know was I going to call it right there or with them? But that was fun too. But I didn't. I did some other things before doing that. But last thing, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
One quick addition, I appreciate that, and when I think about the school safety issues, one of the things that indirectly relates to school safety is, in addition to the 2 additional school resource officers that we're partnering with, the city of Mosinee authorized in their budget the addition of another police officer to their overall staff. So it's a net increase of 3 additional police officers, and I think that helps. That also helps make our community and therefore our schools safer as well.
That's right.
I do have a question regarding the school report card. Was it publicly released yet?
Yes.
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 Yep. So all the information, including the link in the bottom, which is why I definitely put it in there. I did double check with Mr. Way. Appreciate his analysis and overview on the bottom there. But yes.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Item number 12, old business. 12A, discussion, proposed 2023-2024 teacher salary schedule.
Yeah, I have a little slide presentation here. This is discussion only, so there's no need for a vote or a motion for a vote. So what I pulled up, just based on previous actions of the board this year, was the same schedule we had talked about with a higher starting pay, and really looked at several different things with HR. Rob was involved, Michelle Brown, and then some. If you want to flip to the next slide, and then we'll take questions. We've been using this new program. You don't have to click into it, Christy, but essentially one of the things we were looking for was a way, because I had a lot of information from the previous time before we arrived, like 5 years, 6 years ago, when they transitioned salary schedules, and there were some problems with how that transition occurred. So we're trying to solve some of these issues as we go. This was one of the programs that was recommended by business, and I green-lighted using it. And essentially what it does is it allows us to look at each individual person along the way and how it affects the overall, budget, which is about 9.2 to 9.3 million for teachers' salaries. So it's an additional $325,000. You can flip to the next slide. So a couple of the things that are definitely solved if in the future, if the board chooses to approve this, like I said, this is discussion only for tonight. So kind of low stress and low key that way. Immediate movement when master's degrees are earned. That was definitely a concern on the schedule, was the previous schedule. When you received your master's degree, it really depended where you were. That sometimes you had to wait multiple years, and almost certainly you weren't moving right away, all right? So my recommendation is to fix that, and then the schedule that I presented, it does. Including for those who are just receiving it, but also those that are sitting back and waiting for that old schedule to jump forward. Higher starting pay and increase the top of the schedule, those are both included, plus a third lane for specific staff. We've had lots of discussions about specific positions like school psychologists, school counselors. There's a growing desire in multiple districts around the state to have more options in different lanes and pathways for certain staff. We provide for that in this model as well. And then I wrote a little piece down here, and you can see DREAM model is mentioned a few times. Some of the work, and I'll just give an overview and not read it word for word, but the work that we put into this since the board approved raising the minimum salary a few months ago, a few board meetings ago, the work that we put into this was looking at all of the different scenarios and what it would cost the district, okay? And there's definitely some scenarios, for example, like years of experience. So years of experience is something, we don't necessarily solve that, we solve it in some ways, but not in all ways. But if somebody has 10 years of experience in another district, then they come here, that's something that costs X amount of dollars. We costed it at north of 900,000 additional, which is outside of our levy, okay? So we did look at lots of options. We looked at lots of comparables, and this option for a salary schedule is inside our ability to pay, with the understanding that we have other groups still to pay, like support staff. We have other groups and other options that we're coming forward with for groups, pay groups. If you can move to the next slide. So not to exceed $325,000. Currently, we're at about 8.9 million, give or take. If you look at current spending for teacher salaries, so 8.9 million. So the recommendation would go to about a little bit over 9.2 million for teacher salaries. So when we're looking at these sorts of things, we've asked a lot of questions in a very small group. So it's the business office, we pulled in Rob to talk about different aspects of things as well, and then obviously Carla and myself, but then also members of the business office staff helping us with different costing ideas and models and suggestions. So there's a lot of people that have been involved in a small group. Why don't you go ahead to the next slide? Okay. Then the last couple of slides are information that's already public, but I just wanted to reiterate the information to remind the board that there has been already substantial dollars put into post-employment benefits. Just as a reminder, Tier 1, Tier 2, there's multiple tiers. And if you're in Tier 1 as a teacher, it's $25,000 additional dollars. That was approved last year in October. So there's been a substantial investment by the board for the teaching staff, and that's just as a reminder. Actually, altogether, it's over $2 million for not just teachers, but support staff and year-round support staff who are also pulled into this benefit option. And the last slide, I think, is health insurance. which is a yearly piece, about 3.3 million for health insurance, which was an increase. It's something Carla works very hard with. There's Carla sitting right over there with her health insurance subcommittee, looking at ways to keep our insurance as it is and to make improvements along the way as we're able to do it. So that is the information. I'll just take questions, if that's okay, Mr. Hermading?
Yes, that's fine.
About where we're at. Discussion only, obviously. There's no need for a vote.
I have a question.
Yes.
Could you go back to, it's on the page that has the dream model reference?
Yeah, I
I think it's page 4.
Yeah, slide 4 here. Yep, that's it.
So just so I understand.
Yes.
The $8.9 million is, so the 2022-2023 teacher actual wages,
That's the.
according to what we negotiated, 2022-2023.
Correct.
Was $8,578,000.
Right, but it's 8.9 million once you add in the new money.
For the budget that we approved at the annual meeting.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I want to be
So,
sure.
Just double checking. Yes.
So we've budgeted for an increase of the roughly $3,022,000. I'm sorry, $322,000.
Yeah, and I think also a change in staffing and then added positions is where that difference is coming from.
Okay. Just wanted to be certain.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. Mr. Barnes has a question.
Mr. Barnes, sorry.
You're making a recommendation, and then if that recommendation were implemented, I am interested to know how does that compare to the other school districts and their pay from a competitiveness standpoint? Does that make us competitive? Does that make us on top? Are we below? I'm just trying to understand where we land from a compensation standpoint.
Right. It doesn't put us above some of our larger neighbors, but it does make us extremely competitive in our comparables. So for example, with the Merrills of the world and Tomahawk, that kind of thing, it doesn't get our top to the level of where Everest and Wausau are at. However, it makes us more competitive than what we currently are, because it's not something. When previous administration implemented the old salary schedule, I found some information where they definitely thought there was definitely intention to review it and to look at changes to the model over time, which it never was done. And that's partly on me as well, right? I've been here enough years. But looking at the model itself, there are some flaws, which we've identified in 1 through 4, in slide number 4. I think those are clearly flaws that definitely led to a lack of retention. So these flaws in the model led to a lack of retention. I just look at the strategic plan from an attract and retain perspective. Raising the bottom helps with attracting. Raising the top helps because of our existing staff. But retention is also part of that strategic plan. So when putting this whole thing together, that was the idea. I think there's further plans. I think there's more we can do to be even more competitive with some of our larger neighbors. But this makes us extremely competitive with everybody else.
At the point in time that might be a discussion and possible decision, I would find it very beneficial. Maybe on the, I don't need to see whole plans, but here's top pay and here's entry pay, to understand those two things so that I can just side by side compare them and knowing which districts those are. That would be helpful for me.
Yep, I can get some of those fairly easily. Some are very public about it, some are not, but I will get you.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Is it, do all first year teachers have a provisional license?
It depends, I mean, most cases.
I meant all.
All.
I'm sorry, all, I don't mean necessarily in our school district.
Right.
But, so I'm talking about if a teacher gets their degree and they become a teacher, do they first have a
Yes.
provisional license?
Yes.
Does that last only 3 years?
Yes.
Okay,
So if they're new to teaching.
Yeah, that's what I
and
meant.
And this is their first job, the answer to that is yes.
so the reason I asked the question is specifically, as an example, on the Stevens Point board website, Stevens Point, Wisconsin website, it lists that a provisional license is 5 years. That's why I just asked, and it's fine, it's 3. I don't know why they say 5. For the benefit of the board, the current school year that we're presently in, rather than talking about potentially for next year, a first year teacher is at 42.5. Just so, it's kind of an FYI, right? It adds to some content that Matt's asking, but it's also, I completely agree with Mr. Munoz that there are many that are not readily available. Megan, I'm gonna go to Jessica first. She had her hand up, and then to you. Jessica.
I have a question and a comment, and I know I've said this comment before, but I'm just gonna say it again and then move on from that. But this was not what was discussed in the spring of the year. And then my question is, did we ever get to do an analysis of where we are losing the positions of what specialty area and then entry, mid-level, or the more tenured?
I thought I shared that, not last, meeting, but the meeting before that. I can certainly produce something.
Was that
When
part
I-
of compiling that?
Yes, yes. But I also did a report for our own, personnel committee in, identifying with the people leaving, where they were at, what their position was, and, tried to identify their reasons for what I knew based upon their resignation of why they left.
Okay.
I think there might have been an oblique reference to that in your HR report last month also. Last or the prior month, whenever that was, so. Megan, oh, sorry.
Just to answer part of a question that came up is, Merrill's is public and they're a direct comparable. They start at 41.7. They top at 75. For master's teacher, they top at 86.758. For schools, they have a third lane, topping at 86.7. This is all public. 86.758.
So I think an example of what might help to inform the board on that, similar to what we did on the coaches comparables, is that essentially kind of what you're thinking about, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different components to looking
course.
at compensation. And
Yes.
from a recruitment and retention in our geographic area, it would be, I mean, I come through a lane in a profession that negotiates with unions, and what is really important is what are the needs of the organization for recruitment and retention, and then what is an appropriate compensation, and that's based on the comparables. So if it's easy if you have, here's this district, this district, this district, primarily districts we're competing with for staff in recruitment and retention, and then we can look at, here's where we are and here's what's recommended. I just think that paints an easier picture to look at, and I need it on paper in front of me, but that would make it easier for me.
Yeah, I can do that.
Ms. Stankowski.
Just a clarifying question. So, in order to move steps, it's just year of service, positive value. Am I reading it right?
That is correct. I mean, at this point, we're looking for feedback and information about other things like professional development. We've had initial discussions with Mr. Way about that. If professional development is going to be integrated and laid in, which is certainly something we can do.
And then the percentage then to the right of that would be the percent increase that you will get the following year?
Right, it really depends if, for example, somebody's a master's lane, you would drop over and down one. So your increase would be more than 2.5%, quite honestly.
But like if you're in bachelor's year 2,
Right,
I would get a 3% raise for
Correct.
my year 3, am I
Correct.
reading that right?
correct, yes.
I want to make sure that that isn't how I understand it.
That's my,
I know, I think I think I am understanding your question. So, all this graphic, all this grid is doing is telling us that the difference between, let's say, BA1 and BA0 is 3%.
right.
That is a separate conversation completely, is it not, from whether or not the school board puts in place some kind of a either negotiated or supplemental pay adjustment that might be related to something other than this grid. It might, I'm not suggesting anything. It might be related to, as you said, professional development, but it also might be related to additional inflation, or we might decide to, because Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, if next year, let's say next month, the board decides to put this into place for starting next July, all right, for the successive school year from the one we're in right now. If we go to budget next year, at the annual report time, annual meeting time, and let's just say we, as the board, as a community, because it's done at the annual meeting, we budget for 300,000 more salaries for staff. That, correct me if I'm wrong, would increase all of these numbers by that aggregate $300,000.
You could, but you don't have to.
I know that, but is that not really, if we had a plan like this past year, all right, these numbers would be increased in aggregate by $325,000. But that's what's being proposed.
You put money into the model.
I understand.
You don't put money to change
Right.
the numbers. You're putting money in to support the model movement.
But it's very possible, is it not probable, that somebody who is a first-year teacher, this never taught before, they're coming to Mosinee for their very first job, and if this is adopted, next July, they would start to get paid $43,500.
That is correct.
It's not probable that in the following year that they're only going to get paid $44,805, because after all, is somebody who next summer, who's in their second year of teaching, all right, they've completed 1 year already, they're already going to be at $44,805. So are you telling me that a new teacher in that next year is going to be at these, I mean...
No, they're going to increase.
Right.
So you...
So what's to say that the 43...
You put money in to support the model.
Yes.
Not to change the model. You're putting money in to support the model.
Yes.
The model's going to cost the most in year 1. It'll cost less in future years because in year 1 there's special circumstances. For example, there's teachers that have received their master's degree but are still on the old model, right? That no longer, they're 3 or 4 years from seeing a master jump. They're going to see an immediate master's jump. So there's circumstances like that that are going to require more money in the first year, which is why we're costing it this way. That's...
So are there not some teachers that next July, using this model, who started, they're in their very first semester of teaching in Mosinee right now, ever teaching. And the salary, the first year teacher is what, 40,000, 41,000?
Yep, correct.
Okay, So those teachers, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not complaining about it at all, because I voted for the $43,500.
Right.
I support that baseline. Those teachers are going to get closer to an 8 or 9% increase.
You're right. You're actually hitting on a
So this is
really-
why I want this
you're-
clarity in the conversation.
The clarity, okay, now I get where you're going with that. That's a really important point, because it has to do with the transition.
And
it has to do with the transition. A teacher making 40,000 in their first year can't go to 43.5.
Well, they could.
They could. That could be the decision that we make.
Right.
But that shouldn't be the decision that we make in my
That's
profession.
not your proposal.
It's not my proposal for that to be the decision that we make. But that's a very good point. So you're actually painting the same picture that I'm painting, is that first year of the transition, if this is what the board chooses to do, is going to be a little more expensive because of that reality. Because that's true. There is going to be those first year pieces. It'll also happen, I know of several teachers, unfortunately, who left the district because there wasn't going to be a master's bump. This fixes that immediately. So that immediacy is going to cost some dollars. We've never had a third lane before, but those lanes are starting to exist for school psychologists in particular and counselors. So putting that out there is going to increase the outlay, especially in year one.
Well, I mean, to be clear on that,
Go
I
ahead,
think
Matt.
there's a couple of quick little points here.
Yep.
One, it's not, the largest jump in new money occurs in year one.
Yeah.
But you're pot committed to all of that money in year two, so.
And 3 and 4.
Right, so I don't think it's I understand where you're going with it, I just wanna make clear, like, the bump in year one is a whole bunch of new money because people are moving. But wherever they move to, you're gonna pay them for where they move to next year
true.
and anyone else.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's not like you're spending more money in year one than you're gonna spend in year two. And then that's just, if I'm wrong, tell me, but then I look at this and don't interpret this as I don't support it, I don't know where I feel about this yet, but all of those numbers have the potential to change annually based on collective bargaining. Because this does not negate the fact that we negotiate under collective bargaining with the teachers union. So, like, the number that they'd be negotiating on is new money that then gets applied to these numbers annually. Am I understanding that
That's-
correctly?
That's technically
Most-
correct.
That's mostly correct, but collective bargaining, what's the only part that's not correct with what you said, it doesn't get added to a salary schedule. The reason that I have supplemental all over this is because salary schedules are not base wages. So base wages, like in the spring, is the only thing that can be collectively bargained. So this isn't that. This is actual wages and actual salary schedule. So it's not added. Whatever could or would happen in collective bargaining is a separate issue.
Well, I
It's
mean-
a separate issue. But the same money. You're right, it's the same money.
I mean, base wages changes now that we have.
That's what I was
a
just gonna
collective
ask.
bargain,
This-
so, like, I don't claim to have a great understanding of this, but at the end of the day, when you're looking at, here's what a person's making a year, whether a portion of that is base wages or the totality of his base wages, it's gonna, unless you collectively bargain a 0% increase annually, those numbers are gonna change every single year based on the collective bargain.
Depending on the these numbers aren't gonna change, but our overall outlay could change depending on the nature of collective
Can you
bargaining.
go back to the schedule? Now I'm either, so pick, I don't know, pick anyone in there, I can't see that far. Bachelor's degree, year 9 is what?
55,124.
Okay, if that's what it is right now, and we negotiate new money with, let's say this were implemented, and we negotiate new money in collective bargaining, that number is no longer 55,124.
Actually, it is.
Well,
100%, because the money that somebody receives doesn't guarantee movement. That's something that's negotiated. I mean, movement or not movement, I mean, we're talking about two separate issues and we cannot connect them.
So
I am
if somebody's,
totally confused.
if somebody's base wage, Matt, as I understand it, Mr. Munoz, if somebody's base wage for their, because of how base wage is constructed, which you were part of the committee, you know, somebody's base wage might be $38,000.
Correct.
Right?
Right, it
Because they
was,
started
but-
4 years ago, right, for example. And then that's their base wage. So we decided to increase that by 3.27% or whatever it was, right? So their base wage only went up to, you know,
No, I'm with you.
like 39,000 and change, but their pay is 55,000.
Okay, but if I'm just put me in the shoes of a teacher, and you
yep.
say, Matt, you've been teaching for 9 years, what are you making? I'm making 55,124.
Yep.
Oh, the union negotiated, and you guys settled. What'd you settle on? Let's just say 2%. That number might not be going up by 2% times that, but that number's going up.
You have the ability in every negotiations to have to change a schedule or
Yes.
be off the schedule. The decision that was made last year, and this is what makes it.
What's to go off this?
The decision that was made last year, which is making this confusing, is there was a decision to kind of follow the model with how the money was distributed, which is negotiable. So what is negotiable is base wages, but also distribution. What was confusing, and that was okay, that's how what we decided to do, was we negotiated, we decided on a number, and we voted on distribution of the money in a way that looked like the model. That's how that is confusing. But that's really not how.
We didn't negotiate the salary schedule.
Right, that's what I'm trying to make
understand.
very clear.
Right.
But we distributed the money, we negotiated base wages, which is the only thing we had a right to do. And then there was a decision about distribution
Yep.
of the dollars in a way that mimicked the schedule that
This is-
existed. That was that's the confusing part. So when I'm answering you that it's not changing what's on the board, what you're looking at, it's 100% empirically accurate, but the way that we chose to distribute the money, I understand how that looks, but that was just the decision that was made.
Mrs. Stankowski.
I'm with Matt, I'm confused also. So if we adopt this, then we still have to do base wage negotiations? Or
That-
this would take the place of?
No,
don't know.
that has nothing to do with us.
Okay.
That has
okay.
to do with if the union chooses to do
Okay,
that.
so this is separate.
That is
Union
not-
hasn't contacted us to negotiate at this
Okay,
point, yes.
So this is separate. So
This
my,
is
my
separate.
other comment is that I see the attraction, but I don't see the retention, because if you look, if that percentage is accurate, then you're going down. You're attracting them, but then as they stay here, the longer they go, they're getting less, right? Or am I reading that wrong? So you're going 3%, 2.5%, right? Or am I reading that incorrectly?
No, you're reading it
No, that's right.
correctly, but it's also a costing model.
I understand.
Meaning that we're inside, we did this inside the limits of the budget.
I get that.
So that's what this is.
And
And
we-
keep in mind, those more tenured individuals are going to get the post-employment benefit that most other school districts do not offer. An additional retirement on top of the WRS.
We're not familiar with any. I mean, in the
Could be.
region, for sure,
Yeah, I know.
so. Mr. Hanson had his hand up.
No,
You're good?
Been good discussion.
Okay. Any other questions,
In terms
comments?
of
Oh,
timeline, when would we know if there would be a base wage negotiations in terms of,
That's not up to us.
oh, it's not?
Not at
If there's
all.
no deadline or,
And we're not, there's
No.
rules, there's the WERC, there's certain guidelines and fence posts that way, but it's, you know, a salary schedule right now technically does not exist, not technically, it does not
Sure.
exist for next year.
sure.
So one of the things that, once we established a new base wage, it was reasonable to look at how we were going to do this going forward. We're coming into staffing. The next discussion is going to be the staffing plan. We know of several retirements and possible more retirements, so there's going to be a hiring cycle, which we're quickly coming into. And how we establish an equitable distribution of pay is important. It's important for us to, so we have an idea of where to place people as we start to hire, which we will be doing. I guess in talking to the principals we've met with once about this, we'll meet again in January, is that we'll start our hiring cycle sometime in February, like most districts do, with postings and hiring timelines.
So the compensation committee that existed pre-negotiations had its last meeting in December of 2021. And then I believe, if my information is correct, I believe that the very first MEA negotiations meeting was scheduled for February 17th of this year, which, getting schedules together, calendars together, probably we would have heard middle of January, but there's no requirement that there is a timeline to make that happen.
Okay, that answers my question.
Is that correct, Carla? Yes. So all right, so this was discussion only. Any other comments, questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Real quick,
Munoz.
like
Oh.
you were looking for, like, when this comes back, sometime January, February is when you're looking for a decision, ideally?
Yeah, I mean, that would be my preference, but it's up to the board in terms of.
I think January
It'd be up
should
to,
be that Monday night.
be up to the board in terms of agendizing it, and, but yeah, we're not talking about, this is, just want to be clear, this has nothing to do with negotiations.
Correct.
This is separate from that.
So I feel that we kind of, well, it wasn't kind of. We asked the administration for a proposal because of the action that we took as a full board. I think it was unanimous when we had our meeting at the high school cafeteria to set next summer's first year teacher salary at the 43.5. So this is, I think, the natural next step of that.
Yeah, and since and just the last comment, if I would, that since the discussion started and ended, my outstanding administrative team shot me some detailed comparables from the area with base wage masters, base wage bachelors, lots of information already. So I'll make sure they have
So you'll be able to assemble that for us.
Absolutely.
Mr. Barnes, did you have one last? I saw you kind of.
No, I thought about my commentary, and I
Okay.
just want to clarify that I really appreciate the work that went into this. I think it's important that we get this squared away. I'm still confused. It's like a game of who's on first, and I sat on some of these committees, so
I'm right there with you, man.
I think in order to vote, like, there's gonna be some work into, like, I think, Dave, you sensed the confusion that we have and the understanding. So whatever we can do to clarify that and understand what those decisions mean moving forward and how it relates or doesn't relate between base wages and supplemental pay, I think we have work to do. Either I need to work or I need to be given some resources to better understand that. Because
Have a memo. Yep, I agree.
Okay.
We want to make an informed decision.
Item number 12B. Thank you, everybody. Item 12B, discussion and possible decision, policy 5722, second reading.
Yep, the second reading of a policy change, we do recommend approval.
I'll make that motion to approve. I'll second it.
Motion by Gorman, second by Zebro, to approve the second reading of the school-sponsored publications and productions policy. Item 5722. Any questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12C, discussion and possible decision, review of safe return to in-person and continuity of services plan.
Yeah, this is
Done
a
with this.
continuation and a mandatory, it's a requirement. So I wasn't aware that it was gonna be a continuing requirement after we approved it last time, but it is. So I had the school nurses, myself, and others update the plan per the state requirements. And essentially, it's very similar to what was approved last time. It just explains a little bit more. We are keeping track of COVID cases in the background. We have not had a lot of activity. I do check with the nurses periodically on it, so I am aware of a couple cases here and there, but it isn't, it's not an issue in our district, at least at this point. We do have a plan in place. We did have a clinic for not just the flu, but also the COVID vaccine. That's listed in here. So this talks about a lot of the things that we have done or had done already. I do recommend approval.
There's no new money,
No,
correct? That's-
absolutely, absolutely not. This is a state requirement. They ask me every day for me to be sending it to them.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Is that you? We have a motion by Barnes, a second by Bauman. I heard her first. Sound travels faster.
You can give us some.
Any other questions? Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 12D, discussion and possible decision, change in Start College Now / early college credit courses.
Yeah, Chris, I'd ask that you not click into that. So there is some student information on those forms. So just be aware that these are just changes, student individual changes. They change selections of courses. We have looked through them, Mr. Halverson and myself, Mr. Wade, we do recommend those changes.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Motion by Gorman, second by Hanson to approve the change in the Start College Now early college credit courses. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 13, 13 is new business. 13A, discussion and possible decision, Mosinee 2023 staffing timeline.
So the staffing timeline, I've done this, I believe, every year that I've been here, which establishes how we're going to go about staffing the district for the following school year. So this meeting, we've already met as an administrative team. You can see that. We've had one meeting, we'll have another, we'll have several more meetings. So we have had another initial discussion. We do have an initial plan for staffing, including recommendations. So in January, Board Policy 2312 talks about class sizes. This does list the retirement deadline being March 1st to retain hand-picked benefits. We are aware of 3 retirements, I believe, at this point, and a couple more possibly. Initial registrations, that's February. This kind of leads to the next agenda item. With you, principal at the high school, is a recommendation to make a slight change, but I think it's a very good one, in terms of putting a little bit more, instead of having a parent-teacher conference, putting more into initial registrations. It's something that I also did in the high school that I ran. So I think that's a very good thing. We can talk about that in the next item. So preliminary staffing plan to the Board of Education in February with a final plan in March. In March, there'll be a busy meeting for staffing because that's when we have to have courses 15 and under if we're going to run them, or above, and we'll look at all of those things similar to what we've done in years past. So there'll be a vote on a staffing plan in March, which we've already started working on. So the administrative team has seen parts of it. We'll continue to develop it as we move along. So teacher contracts issued on or before May 15th and accepted on or before June 15th. If there's questions, I'll take them. If not, I am recommending approval.
I just want to make one comment. This is the first bulleted point down on under April 18, where it says Board of Education action vote on final notices of non-renewal, if needed. Is that something that the new board members vote on? Is that like their first meeting?
Mm.
That's not their first meeting?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so their first meeting would be in May?
No,
No.
well,
It's a week.
is it, end of first, like
Yeah.
April 30th, somewhere on there.
Yeah, 26, 27, board
Yeah.
reorganization.
They wouldn't get to do this.
Last Monday in January, February, March, April or something.
So that's this current board makeup. We'll vote on that.
Yes.
Okay,
If
that's
needed.
what I wanted to know. Okay.
I do just have a comment, and I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, but student enrollment is going down, but we have increased in staff in the last couple of years. Is that accurate?
I'd have to do a report on that. I think it's accurate, we've increased in certain areas. But I'd have to get a report for you on that. I can do that as part of
I
this.
just want to make sure that we're being cognizant. I don't want to create more work, but I want to be cognizant of the fact that there are some surrounding districts that are, due to referendum failures, that now they may have to lay off staff, and I just don't want us to be in that situation. So I just want that to be at the forefront of our mind as we go through this, to make sure that we're really looking at things, to make sure that nobody is ever put in that situation as a staff member, hopefully.
One thing I can say, and this comes from the audit, is that in the audit that was approved in committee today, we're actually +5 open enrollment. And that's the first time in a long time that we're positive open enrollment. And it's an extremely positive thing for us as a district overall. When I arrived here, we were over 100 to the negative. So, you know, that's something that kind of popped out in the audit, you know, because they look at it from a financial perspective and say, please keep that up, because we see what you say in terms of declining enrollment, lower birth rates, these sorts of things. So I just wanted to point that out, but I'll make a note about staffing over time.
Mhm. But in totality, even though our open enrollments are up, we're also having our own students open enroll out or either choose to homeschool.
Right.
Which still, actually, homeschool counts to us anyway.
Okay. I apologize, did we vote?
No, we did not.
I'll make that motion to approve staffing timeline. I'll second.
Motion by Gorman, second by Zebro, to approve the staffing timeline for 2023 school year. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 13B, discussion and possible decision proposed high school calendar change.
Yeah, this is for this year. Mr. Halverson, working with the leadership team and the staff at the high school, came up with this recommendation to eliminate a high school parent-teacher conference, one of them that was less attended, and to input a registration day, if you will, a course selection and registration night on February 1st. This is pretty common in other high schools. Essentially what it is before students make their final selections, that they're able to talk to a teacher. They're able to have a parent talk to a teacher about this class or that sort of thing. So when Mr. Halverson presented it to me, I'm like, oh yes, I've done that before as a principal. That's a great idea. So my recommendation is to approve this, and essentially what it would do, it eliminates a parent-teacher conference day, but it opens things up for questions, for comments from any parent or student about a class.
I'm concerned that it's a Wednesday night. This community still promotes religious activities for our children and families. So that's a concern I have.
I didn't look at that. Thank you. If we get
Night before is a basketball game, and I think the night afterward is a boys' basketball game, so those, just things to look at. My recommendation for support would be to try to find a night where we can get the best turnout we can.
Well, why don't we do this? If there's a motion to approve this change, but not the date, and then I can have the high school work on an effective date.
I'll make a motion to approve this change in the calendar to a night that would best serve the families of our district.
Not a Wednesday.
To the best night that won't, I mean, yeah.
He's not forcing you, as I understand
No,
your
I'm not
motion,
forcing you,
to
but
not have it
yeah.
on a Wednesday. He'd
To-
just like you to look at it.
Right.
Something to look at.
If you're trying to have max participation, it's best not to do a Wednesday. And I will say, as a parent who went to high school teacher conferences this last time, it was not well attended, but also because it was the night of a Packer game. So hopefully, this will be after February, but who knows?
I'll second his motion.
Not that it'll matter.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We have a motion by Hanson. Gorman, will you second?
Yes.
Thank you. Gonna read back the motion as you understood it. Sarah, please.
Okay, so Hanson made the motion to accept the change, but on a different night that's not being recommended currently.
You good with that?
Sure.
Close enough?
Close.
Yeah, I mean,
think
and I
they
would
know the-
agree,
they know the
with- I would
spirit of what
agree with
we're
the way
asking.
Matt characterized it.
Yeah.
If that's the only night that you can do it, that's.
Yeah,
what
that's
happens.
fine,
Just understand. Yeah.
We'll work on it.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 13C, discussion only, preliminary school calendar for 23-24.
Yeah, there's already one change that's gonna be put in. There were some initial discussions about spring break being the third week in March, but it's definitely gonna have to be moved to the fourth week.
Okay.
Right, we have been aligned, and that's largely because DC Everest and Wausau have set their spring break the last week in March. But Stevens Point is still the third week because they follow Stevens Point. So while we've been aligned to Stevens Point, Everest, and Wausau for multiple years, it appears we will not be aligned to Stevens Point for next year. I'd say about 10% of our staff live in Stevens Point, but the vast majority live in either Mosinee, Wausau, or Everest. So for us to align with those schedules for spring break makes a lot of sense. So you don't see that right now. So what that does is the schedule that I bring back in January will have spring break the 25th through Good Friday, which kind of buys back a day. So we have some thoughts about that as well. I have had some discussions with staff about the start of school, and because of that change, it's very possible we'll be able to construct a schedule that starts after Labor Day and ends before June 1st. So it appears that that's likely, including having Thanksgiving off for a week, having Christmas off, and the full spring break. So we have a little bit of work to put into this, just based on recent changes that we've heard about from both Everest and Wausau. But we will definitely not be aligned with Stevens Point, and there's nothing we can do about that. So that only affects some of us.
They've officially passed theirs.
They follow the UWSP.
Yeah.
So UWSP spring break is the third week in March, so they've already set it.
That's
So you
been
can-
set for like 3 years,
Yeah.
4 years.
So they'll just always follow SP, which makes sense. That's what we did with UW Stout as well. So a couple of days that each of the buildings, I've tasked each of the building principals to come back to me with parent-teacher conferences and lay-ins for all of that. So those things will be laid in for the January meeting as well. Questions?
Anybody? Discussion only.
Mhm.
Thank you for your work and your team.
We'll put more into it and get some feedback and make those changes for January.
Thank you. Item 13D, discussion and possible decision, policy update for curriculum committee name change.
I was chuckling at something else.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
So according to
You guys.
And our meetings end earlier that way too.
Yeah, right.
Okay, according to policy 0155, There has been a suggestion to change the name, but in order to do that, we also have to change policy. So I wrote this up. New policy 0155 would be the same, with the only change being the name Instructional Programs Committee, replacing Curriculum and Standards Committee. Administration recommends making this technical change to policy 0155.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Zebro, second by Kaiser. Matt?
It's got a name.
I support it.
Okay.
Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever makes you men happy.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
She's still mad she got moved over to finance.
Good grief. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 13E, discussion and possible decision, extended field trip for the DECA organization.
Correct, and everything's laid out there. All the new rules for trips that we had talked about previously have been applied. I do recommend approval.
I'll make that motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion by Gorman, second by Kaiser to approve the extended field trip for DECA to Orlando. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 14, other reports, WASB report. Mr. Segro.
Yes, we have the big conference coming up in January 18th, I believe, and Sarah should have everyone signed up, and I think most of us, or all of us, are going to the Tuesday. We needed to pick that, which session we were going to do, and in the November school news, there is a whole kind of schedule of what you're interested in looking at that. And then, of course, you know the keynote speakers. And, of course, I will be the WASB representative. And as of what I was sent, we had 19 resolutions from 10 different schools. If anybody has any questions or input on that, they can let me know. That concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Kaiser, CISA 9.
I have to lay myself at the court's mercy. I have no report.
Okay.
I was at CISA 9 recently with the legislatures, and they're doing a lot of great work with and for us.
Thank you for helping me.
All right. Item 15, future agenda items. Anybody?
I have one written down just from discussion about staffing over time.
Okay. Anything else? Hearing none, we'll go on to item number 16. Movement into closed executive session. The board will convene into closed executive session pursuant to section 19.85, parent 1, parent G of the state statutes for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel of the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is likely to become involved. And 1C as for employment promotion compensation and performance evaluation, and 1F concerning financial, medical, social, or personal histories or disciplinary data of specific persons. Is there a motion?
I will make that motion.
Motion by Gorman, second by Kaiser. Roll call, please.
Maple?
Yes.
Gorman?
Yes.
Stankowski? Yes. Kaiser?
Yes.
Zebro?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Barnes?
Yes.
Bowman? Yes. Harmoning?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Quarter two?
6 minutes? Yeah. 7:45.
You want to?
Brad, thank you for your help on the whole ELA thing. Mr. Way as well. If you want to, too, great. Carla, are you able to stay there for a minute?
You too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, fixing your pool, you see that? Sand builder?
You're actually there, that would be amazing.
I was big.
Well,
Could you check? Michelle? Okay, no problem.